Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to week 4 of our digital show. I'm Jay Pushko alongside Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski. And guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are in trouble. And Kent, you and I were at the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and even the post-game reactions on radio, pretty telling for the Steeler fans. They think the sky's already falling going into week number 4. A lot of really good insights from the fan base.
Well, to tell even going into that game, 10,000 no-shows already.
Yeah.
So people already sort of have a feeling from week 2 against the Raiders that this team's not very good right now. So that's a lot of people to not show for a home game after being off for a whole entire season with COVID, you know. So, yeah, it's kind of alarming. But the Steelers have been in this predicament before, not quite as bad with, you know, injuries and things of that nature at the start of the season. But they've gone in the seasons with 1-4 records and made a comeback, rebound, whatever you want to call it, before. So I don't know that starts this coming weekend, going to Green Bay against a team that just is coming off a win that's kind of started off the season similar to the Steelers, and now it seems to turn their season around a little bit early. It's going to be tough to go up there and get a win. And
Mike, it's hard to believe. A year ago, they started out 11-0, but since then, they're 2-7. And we were even talking about Ben Roethlisberger being an MVP-like candidate last year. Now, all of a sudden, he looks really old, and he doesn't look like he's the same Ben that we're accustomed to seeing.
And on one side of the field, you had 58 passing attempts out of Roethlisberger. On the other side, you only had 18 out of Joe Burrow, with 3 touchdown passes. They had the 1 turnover, but Pittsburgh loses the turnover margin, 2 giveaways to 1 takeaway. I mean, only 268 yards allowed by the Steeler defense, and it didn't feel like they were ever in the game. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow when you look at those numbers, because the Bengals didn't really do a ton offensively. They just were able to kind of keep their balance. But yeah, for the Steelers on offense and with Roethlisberger, the offensive line, the youth, the changeover, just all these things are rearing their ugly head already, because he's just being battered and bruised, and he had the left pectoral injury coming into the game. Obviously, that plays a role, and he's just not mobile back there. It's really hard to get away with some of the things they want to do offensively with not having that.
I don't think the most mobile quarterback in the league would get away from the pass rush there. And it's, but you know, getting back to the defense, no sacks, no pass rush. You know, so
Joe Burrow looked really comfortable, especially that second touchdown that he threw. That he had time in the pocket.
Right, and and the Steelers are a defense that prides themselves on getting that rush there. They're just not doing it. You know, and when you give any quarterback the time to throw the ball, he's going to find somebody open. So that's the tell the tape real quick, you know. And then you have Ben is older, he's slow, but that offensive line is just not giving him any time at all. Less than 2 seconds, you know, and that ball's got to be gone. So for a guy his age, and yeah, he is not as mobile. That's a tough day any day, and it's going to continue until they get some, you know, something solidified on that offensive line.
And one of the other observations too, the Steelers wide receivers, they're getting no separation. So when you combine that,
I don't think they have time. I don't think they have time to get separation.
When there's no time with the blocking schemes, they don't have time to get that separation. That's why Ben's holding the ball as long as he is, because he's trying to at least buy them enough time downfield to get the separation. And it hasn't been there. And I tell you what, there was 10,000 less fans at Heinz Field, but the boos were getting louder by the quarter. Early third, especially the play calling too. And it was interesting. Well, they were booing because they weren't going to go for it on 4th down, but yet you were still down 3 possessions. So for them to kick the field goal like they did, that still made sense, but you can certainly hear the frustration out of the fan base.
Yeah, that was a tough spot. I think the 2 loudest segments of the game you would have gone to were there, kicking the field goal, the fans not happy with that decision, and then the 4th and 10, which has been really dissected.
Even the play call on that 4th and 10.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I mean, it doesn't have a huge chance of success. Yeah. You know, you got to at least throw it to the end zone where that's where the points are. They're there, not at the 10-yard line. You know, so I don't know. I don't get that call at all.
The lack of responses over that question this week, it's been really interesting, because every time it gets brought up, it's like, oh, we forgot the play. We don't know what you're talking about.
Or we ran out of plays. But that was another comment, too, where it's like, how do you run out of plays in certain situations on the field?
I'm not just blaming the offense. I'm the whole team as a whole, you know. And granted, there's injuries going on, and You know, but you know, couple of games ago, they're already starting to crown Minkah Fitzpatrick as being like Polamalu-like. I'm not seeing it. You know, not yet.
Where's Devin Bush at?
Right, Devin Bush, a first-round draft pick. I don't think he's responsible for one solo tackle in the game against the Bengals, so that's not good for a number one pick.
Yeah, the tackles were real low against the Bengals.
They're feeling the loss of Stephon Tuitt right now, big time.
Right,
we thought that might be a problem and a factor. I think it's really
Alu too.
That's true.
So I mean, and you're bringing a guy in from the practice squad to fill in the role for T.J. Watt. You're not, you know, it's not a recipe for success.
Well, with all that said, we turn our attention to the Green Bay Packers, and it's definitely not going to be a rematch of Super Bowl 45 by any means, but at least one common denominator. Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Packers. Ben Roethlisberger, still quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a critical matchup for Pittsburgh because if they go 1-3 and then they have to come back for 2 more games against 2 stout opponents in Denver and Seattle, this could really spiral out of control. How do you see the matchup going up to Lambeau?
Well, I think it's going to be hard for them to go up there to win. And I don't necessarily think they have to go up there to win, but I think they have to go up there and get better.
Show some life.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And if they do that, and then they come back home for a stretch of games going into the bye, if you can come back, even with the loss, you come back with home games with Denver and Seattle. If you can get 2 wins, and now you're 500 going into the break, and you can put a little pressure on the team, whatever team's in first place at that time. So I'm not looking to, if they go up there and squeak out a win, which wouldn't surprise me. They've done things like that before.
It is the
Buffalo.
NFL,
right? Then you have something there, but. Aaron Rodgers doesn't turn the ball over. They're not known for turning the ball over as an offense. They have a couple injuries on offense themselves, but Aaron will find a way. I mean, and without a pass rush and without some of the depth at linebacker back, you know, Aaron Jones is a heck of a running back that can go outside and run between the tackles. It could be a long day for them up there.
Mike, is it a good thing for the Steelers to just go on the road? They could be one of those adages of like, hey, we got to get out of the city. We got to get out of playing at Heinz Field. We got to get rid of this noise and just go business-like and go on the road somewhere. And in this case, it's up to Green Bay.
Could be a good recipe because when you have your back against the wall and you convince yourself that it's us against the world, sometimes those are the trips you need. Like you said, a business-like approach and try to just fix yourself and find your identity, because that's another big question that was coming up this week is what's the offensive identity for this team? And Ben really only said, it's a group of guys that won't panic. And so how are they going to respond to some of these adverse situations when they're on the road at Lambeau Field, when maybe they're down a score or down 2 scores? We're going to find out a lot about this offense once again this week. And then defensively, Joe Hayden saying that it's not going to be his sole responsibility to spy on Davante Adams, the very, very talented, you could argue maybe the best receiver going in the NFL right now, if not top 5. It's going to be a by-committee effort to try to slow him down. But between Adams and Jones, those are 2 really tough guys. Robert Tonyan, the tight end, also underrated in the pass game.
Kent, if they're able to go on the road and win, how do they do it?
Well, how you beat a Hall of Fame quarterback on his home turf is you keep him off the field. And that's going to be some sustained long drives, getting Najee more involved in the running game. And hopefully that they can find some way to keep the ball, time of possession on the offensive side of the ball to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field and keep him from hurting you.
Win the turnover battle.
Yeah.
Win it by 1 or 2.
Right.
That'll flip the game.
Too. Yeah.
Well, and even Cam Hayward has been saying the last couple of weeks, we got to get off the field on 3rd down.
Right.
They have not been successful either with the Raiders or the Bengals. 3rd in whatever situation it is.
Back twice, 2 weeks in a row.
They keep getting burned, and they've been burned just before the half, too. They can't do that, especially going on the road in Green Bay. So it'll be interesting to see.
And here's the one more point, is that, you know, too many offensive line penalties on your home turf. You know what I mean? That caused three times Najee Harris had plays of 10 yards or more called back because of offensive line penalties. False starts. At home where it's quiet. You go on the road where it's a little more louder. Oh, you got to clean that up.
They certainly do. If not, Pittsburgh is looking into even more trouble going into week number 5. So for Mike Fenner, Kent Urbanski, I'm Jay Pushkar. Thanks for tuning in to week number 4's show. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.